Ok, siamo qui con Richard McCarthy, che oltre ad essere l'autore, insieme a Mr. Sekihara, di un libro interessantissimo che si intitola Kuni, ma è uno dei fautori di un nuovo modo di pensare e di ripensare all'agricoltura e all'ambiente. Quindi ci ha fatto l'onore di rispondere a queste poche domande. La prima domanda è Kuni. Quando e dove è nata questa idea?
So Kuni in Japanese is a well-known word meaning the nation. The use of Kuni in this context is reinventing the idea of Kuni not meaning the nation, but a small, resilient, autonomous community. And in this regard, it is a very creative adaptation of an old world word, and making it new, meaning a new, vibrant, rural community that succeeds because it connects to the urban, but not in an extractive relationship, but one where it utilizes, rediscovers its inherent assets, its people, its place, and its products. And the relationship of the goal to create a Kuni is a healthy, balanced relationship that's pluralist, that involves everyone who is otherwise collapsing beneath the weight of dying rural communities. So it's a shot in the arm to have this new approach to utilize the old assets and make them very new and attractive to urban dwellers who yearn for wildness, who yearn for connection with community because they're trapped in cities. So it's an interesting relationship between urban and rural.
Quali sono i valori fondanti di un Kuni?
Tradition is a very important part of Kuni. It's something that in our industrialized, urbanized world is usually deemed a barrier, a bad thing. Tradition gets in the way of progress. What Kuni proposes is that instead we should look at tradition, the important community led instruments that are rooted in tradition, whether it is traditional irrigation systems, the traditional love for and care for the elderly, the tradition of preparing the youth for the future. These become really important building blocks for small, fragile, rural communities to harness these traditions. And these traditions that are not made for the mass-produced modern world, but they may be ideal for the postmodern world, for the post-industrial world, where we look at our relationship between our food and the places where the food comes from as an opportunity to build a bridge, to build community between urban and rural, between past and future. And we see this in the products and how they promote the products from these small rural rice-growing regions. And therefore tradition is something that we trade on. The challenge, of course, is do you trade on tradition and therefore pollute it? So it requires extraordinary attention to balance and scale so that you do not just trade on it and pollute it and destroy it, but you have to preserve it. First is something that we share within a community, and then we define how we want to share it with the outside world.
Che rapporto c'è tra giovani e anziani all'interno di un Kuni?
We live in a time where the relationship and the experiences between the young and the old are so great. The distance is so great. Many young people do not understand the elderly do not understand the young, and importantly, the systems we create are increasingly treating the elderly as archaic, as finished, as expended, as people who should just be put away and out of sight. And this is especially critical in rural communities where there are so few people, where the traditional knowledge that the elderly possess can still play a role, so that their relevance could be elevated, not marginalized. And so the young who it is important to remember, in Japan, the young do treat the elderly with great respect. There is care for the elderly. And I've seen this through how they manage disasters, how they look after the elderly. In this rural community of Nakanamato in rural Joetsu in Japan, where Kuni has been established, they have a program during the winter because the snow is so high that the elderly cannot leave the home. Well, the young people are organized in these troops to go bring food to the elderly. This is amazing, this kind of care and recognition that there should be a link between the old and the young. The only age group that is difficult to transform are the people in the middle. They're busy managing their lives, but there's an incredible opportunity to link the old and the young, and to take many old ideas and make them new and vibrant and have a relevance in the future. If the young can also begin to gain a sense of ownership over these ideas. And that's, again, what the intermediary of the RMO is meant to do.
Ci sono dei ruoli specifici in un Kuni o tutti in qualche modo si possono occupare di tutto?
Kuni, of course, is not meant to be a blueprint that you follow every instruction and it works here, it works there, it's all the same. We know that every context is different. But what excites me and excited me to write the book with Sekihara is that Kuni is an original approach to look at the questions we never ask about our societies. What is the right scale of a community to achieve both proximity and democracy, as well as anonymity? What is our relationship among ourselves, especially with local government? And you could read through the writings and think that maybe there's a demonizing of local government. No, I think what we found was that many of the local mayors are just lost. They have no way of knowing how to be relevant, how to grow the future, because they overlook a decaying infrastructure. So what the regional management organization is meant to do is to create a new infrastructure that thinks regionally, that thinks as an entire region, where we redefine what our roles are as participants, not as consumers of our lives, but as protagonists. And in this, everyone is equal. This is not a top-down approach. There is pluralism so that everyone has a point of view and it may differ. This is especially important in a place like Japan, where democracy is still a very thin and new concept. But this is inherently a very democratic approach. So the roles we play are shaped by how we participate. And what I always go back to is how this effort began was out of many failures to make the economy and the community function. And where Sekihara found the most interest was among the very young and the very old, to clean out the irrigation, the 1,000-year-old irrigation canals that help to grow rice in the region. So it really began with volunteerism, of individuals coming together, joining a community, and recognizing that the solutions are not going to be made by others. We have to do it together collectively.
Che tipo di agricoltura viene praticata in un Kuni? C'è in qualche modo un legame con l'agricoltura cosiddetta del non fare di Fukuoka?
When I visited Nakanamato, the village and the surrounding region of rural Joetsu, I marveled at the small-scale, clean approach to agriculture and the old practices of taking koki, persimmons like in Italian, koki, maybe koki, kaki, of taking persimmons and drying them the old-fashioned way. And afterwards, I asked Sekihara, gosh, in terms of the agricultural practice, have you ever do you think about, have you ever heard of Fukuoka's book, the One Straw Revolution? And he just smiled. He's like, of course, this is what we practice. And so much so that I wondered, should we call this book The Last Straw Revolution? Because it's like the last straw to save these small, regenerative rural communities. But no, we wound up landing on Kuni because that's such a powerful idea. But the agriculture is traditional, it is regenerative, it is the way it used to be done. It is not enamored by scale, it is community agriculture. And they trade on the quality and the uniqueness of the flavor, in particular of the rice, because of the very clean water that is known in the Joetsu region that comes down the mountains. It's so clean. The rice is treasured by those who know how to decipher between different flavors of rice.
Anche in Italia piccoli comuni e borghi si stanno spopolando. Allora la domanda è questa: il modello Kuni può in qualche modo essere utilizzato, può crescere anche in Italia?
This is a very serious and also very funny question, because when you think of Japan, it is very hierarchical, it is very rigid, it is very controlled. And when you think of Italy, you don't think that it is, well, you may think it's hierarchical, but it's certainly not rigid and controlled. It's wonderfully free-form and improvisational. And in many ways, I think the Japanese look to Italian design and culture and think, oh, only if we were like them. And maybe in Italy, maybe we look to the Japanese and think, oh my gosh, only if we were like them. And yet, funnily enough, there are many similarities that I see. But I see these similarities in many countries, but especially Italy. Because when you travel to small rural villages in Italy, you can see that there is a pulse of life in some. In others, you think maybe they've gone too far and that they will never return. Of course, they may be having been built on previous civilizations, so you do get a perspective in terms of maybe places come and go. But instead, what I've seen, especially in the multifunctional agriculture in Italy, embracing direct marketing, embracing agrotourism strategies, the agroturismo. These are all indicators that people are beginning to recognize that they do possess assets that may not have mattered in the last 50 years, but they matter now. And the question is, this can be done individually, and maybe there can be a successful farm enterprise that does the things that Kuni does to bring in repeat visitors. But it's so much more powerful if this is done politically as a community, so that community members come together and say, we have a shared vision of what our community could look like. And this, I see glimpses of it in Italy. I think we need so much more of it. We should be much more positive, that we have so much going for us. I think of when I travel through Puglia or Calabria. These are small, fragile villages whose economies are holding on, but for how long? I think the problem, of course, is economic, it's infrastructure, it's all the things that all of the official people talk about. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is to have an idea about what your community is, a vision of a brand of this is who we are the people that make this product, and we organize our activities in some degree of shared future-driven work. And in this regard, Italy is in great need of this, to create more balance between urban and rural, but it is also so poised for it because you're already doing it part of the way. But we need to move beyond just the commercial relationship and actually build that community, political, social relationship that rebuilds trust within urban and rural, but especially if it is built upon the confidence that rural has something to offer, maybe something better than the city. I know people in the city really wonder, what am I doing here? And that is something to trade on.
Esistono già delle realtà nel nostro paese che in qualche modo possono assomigliare al Kuni.
It's funny, for many people outside of Italy, they may see online these advertisements to buy a house in southern Italy for, is it €100? I mean, one of these crazy sort of schemes. And many of us look at that and think, wow, are things that desperate that I could get a house for €100? And of course, it's much more complicated than that. But it's an indicator of maybe how potentially tragic the situation is, but also how creative people are getting in terms of analyzing what might be the value to be there. Of course, we cannot solve isolated rural problems by inviting out newcomers to come in and base it on the arrival of, the next generation of second homeowners. Places function because people live there and care about it. And so where I've seen some really encouraging signs is in some of the social farming where refugees from the MENA region find themselves embraced and welcomed by farmers who need farm workers and who need, skilled farm workers. That's the great thing, is people are coming with skills. And also programs where mayors of small towns recognize that we lack skills, old skills, practical skills to rebuild homes, to build infrastructure, to farm, skills for hospitality. And these are strategies that can provide a pathway to welcome in new, vibrant blood, a new pulse. And I think the opportunity is to do that. And one of the things I love about Kuni is it's a call for autonomy, but not isolation. It is a call to say, we know who we are because we as a community have decided who we are, and we want to welcome in people. And so it's that relationship of how do you welcome in without over tipping the balance to where you lose all of the things you love about your place. And I think that Kuni is maybe a bit of a roadmap, but if not a roadmap, at least a conversation starter to ask the question of, why do we live here? What do we want out of it? Who should care? And how can we grow for the future?